Well, I have never pulled the trigger on a show so prematurely in the sense that don't even have a guitar in my hand or an instrument kind of ready to go. I sound like George Bush. Kind of ready to go. Over there. Gonna play some songs. Um, if you're seeing this on YouTube, welcome to the channel, Folk Rock for You. If you're seeing it on Facebook, glad to have you. It's just slightly delayed on Facebook by about an hour. And I should keep track of these, but I stopped counting at about 200. So I started this show in the during COVID, and have been forging ahead with it for years and enjoying it every minute. I would never quit. Now I love it, and I'm glad to serve you in the sense of coming to you here weekly. I haven't played my Martin in a long time, in quite a while anyway. So let me warm up with a Beatles song here. I got some nice comments about this instrumental recently. So let's do it again. Well, I am just completely disoriented here. Senior ginkgo biloba moment. Need ginkgo biloba. So let me get my sea legs again. It's in a different key than the Beatles recording. you get the ending right, that's what counts, right, friends? That was a sloppy version, but it had feeling. Um, some of you sharp-eared listeners, particularly maybe you guitar players, will notice that I kind of toggled before between two chords. This famous second chord was the chord that Paul and John said Ivan at the record store taught them. That's D7 sharp 9. And they did not know how to play that chord before he showed it to them. And so immediately, knowing them, they put the chord in a song. I soften it a little during the course of the song. That's a real tangy jazz chord there. But I make it a regular D minor 7th sometime, like this. Which is how probably most of the cocktail lounge piano players in the lounge sing it or play it. But I also want to stay anatomically correct to the Beatles version, which again, to remind you, is in E minor. So the second chord in the E minor version goes. Michelle, and then they go all the way up here. My belle. Amazing, amazingly crazy. Anyway, I've got some new things tonight. I've got some old things. I got a ukulele thing. I got some blues. And why don't I get right down to business, so to speak, with my white Telecaster, whose name is Preacher. And this was the beginning of my way back. I played electric guitar for many, many years. And then when I got married 30 years ago, I quit playing electric guitar. I joined in with gusto to the Philadelphia acoustic folk scene with my wife, Annie. And then I was married, I guess, for almost 20 years before I got this. Having no electric guitars and no amplifiers in the house. I sold my Super Reverb amp, which was a all out and out classic. We just couldn't carry it around anymore. We lived on the second floor in a little house in Bucks County, and rickety stairs, and I had this big, beautiful, I mean, literally, I mean, the Super Reverb is almost like the most coveted vintage amp of all time. "80 degrees today in North Jersey." Every year around this time I say, tell the children there used to be a thing called spring. Because for the last 15 years, I think it's gone from winter to summer almost every year. But this is just an anomaly. Tomorrow it's going to be 55. So it'll be back to winter, not even back to spring. But let me tune this thing up a little. This is a guitar I bought from Sweetwater. So you could see it online. You could look at it. There was like 7 different ones to choose from. I'm either crazy or strangely, uniquely confident, but I'm going to play Jimi Hendrix's blues, his classic blues, Red House. And I don't really care. That's how I roll nowadays. I'm not trying to emulate him. I am inspired by him. And I think at this point, after 15 years of deep searching, and hours a day spent in pursuit of this. I think I have just about found my own voice as a blues guitar player, and I'm looking forward to going out and kind of springing that voice on the world when I release my blues album that I'm in the planning stages of and in the writing stages still. So I keep adding material to it, and that album is going to be called My Way of Crying, Lord willing. And I'll use a little bit of rhythm here with this. And I'm going to pay my respects to Mr. Hendrix. Well, that doesn't sound, that's not even right. That sounds like it's in 3/4 time or something. How did that happen? Here we go. Yeah, that's a groove I can live with. There's a red house over yonder where my baby stays, yeah. There's a red house over yonder, yeah, where my baby stays. I've been waiting to see my baby, yeah. 99½ days, yeah. Now wait just a minute here. My key don't unlock this door, no. Wait just a minute here. My key don't unlock this door. I got a bad feeling, baby, yeah. My baby don't live here no more. That's all right, I've still got my guitar. think I'll go over yonder to the next house on the hill. I think I'll go over yonder to the next house over on the next hill. If my baby don't love me, I know her sister will. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Hendrix could definitely play the blues. This is book night tonight. In a way, I was inspired by my friend Steve Phillips' granddaughter, who just wrote and published her own, and she's a kid. Some people our age have granddaughters who were in their 20s. But Scout is still a little girl, or a girl, I shouldn't say a little girl, and she has written her first and illustrated her first children's book, and it's about their pet rabbit. I hope I have that right. Don't remember the name yet, but you'll be hearing more about this endeavor as the weeks go by, and I hope to get a copy of it and show it to you. And so she probably has, I reckon, a bright future ahead of her. I'm very, well, this is going to come off wrong. I'm fond of this children's book that I wrote, and called Garbo Speaks, about the raccoon that came to my back door one night, who kind of lived in my garbage can, figuratively, but in the book I make it literal. There he is, Garbo. He's got a bit of garbage on his head, and he plays the ukulele, this raccoon. And in the course of the book, which is available, of course, on Amazon, I could read the whole thing to you in 10 minutes, but he shows you in the book how to play a song on the ukulele. And so it's got chord charts in the back of it, and there's a picture of him with the protagonist, which is a poor imitation of me when I was a child. I had glasses and I played the guitar. I didn't play the ukulele yet when I was a kid. Garbo Speaks is the name of it. It's on Amazon. What is it, $10 or something? I don't know. I have this guitar book, and to my great satisfaction, delight, all of the adjectives, the liner notes on this guitar instructional book, my son thinks that is a very corny cover, and I'm inclined to agree with him. But I almost thought it was like kitschy enough to look like an old instructional book, so that maybe people would take it as ironic. That's the fallback position I have. But I'll redesign the cover someday, and this is the best primer for guitar I have ever read. It has everything an introduction to guitar should have: a clear, knowledgeable, and friendly author who imparts invaluable information, both commonsensical and musical, and the follow-through. It presents the reader-student with fun musical challenges that will surely infuse a sense of excitement and achievement. Well done, Chip. Even as I read that, I just am thankful for the articulation by this legendary guitar player, Elliot Randall, who played the Steely Dan solo, Reelin' in the Years, among many other things. Do you know that Reelin' in the Years is Jimmy Page's all-time favorite guitar solo? He's told it to Elliot Randall personally, I believe. So this is $10. And this is a questionable thing I did, and I'm still kicking myself in a way, but I made this available as an ebook. And so it's 99 cents to download, which at the end of the day is really a stupid move to me. I make almost nothing off of that. Um, but I was hoping that, it might go viral or something. It never has, nor has anything else I've ever done artistically. Uh, this is a book I'm very proud of. My first book of short stories. I could only say that I looked at it again recently after I published it a few years back, and I can stand behind every single story. They're not going to set the world on fire, the literary world. They're just stories that I believe in that are taken mostly from real life. There's a fairy tale in here called The Girl on the High Wire that's, of course, complete fantasy based on my song. But this book has its fans, including Livingston Taylor, who wrote me a beautiful blurb. And I thought I might take the very risky and slightly unconventional move tonight to read you my favorite story that I've ever written. And I was reading it today in preparation for this, and it was so emotional to me that I could barely get through it. So I'm really taking a chance here, because a lot of it is true, taken from real life. And in the way that fiction works, you can make a composite of two or three people and compress 15 years down to a 10-minute read. Pardon me, I'm so dry. So I'll try. I'll do my best. If I choke up, whatever. But this is my favorite story I've written, and it's called The Banjo Lesson. And essentially, it's almost taken from real life, except the protagonist in this book, is a banjo teacher. I'm a guitar teacher, taught for many years. I teach private lessons, by the way, via Zoom. So private message me if you're ever interested in taking one. But this man has cancer, and he's looking at the last days, in a way, of his life. I am not. I'm looking at the beginning of my life at this point. And that sounds facetious, but it isn't. I'm very excited about releasing this album, which is really going to be almost like the first album of my life. I have 13 albums out, 14 maybe, but this is the first thing I've ever written where I wrote it from square one with a through line throughout the entire album. I've never done that before, so this is a real album in that sense. And it might even be an EP, because I don't want to bog people down with 13, 14 songs. Nobody's going to listen to that. Your own kids won't listen to that. This is called The Banjo Lesson by me, Chip Murgott, from my book, There Must Be a Better World Somewhere, which is available on Amazon. I sat in the driveway for a minute after I shut the car off. The February day was not as bleak as it could have been. A late afternoon sun shone through the windshield. The colors outside were brown and light gray, like pebbles on a beach or the wool in a blanket. I couldn't find the necessary energy to move, and I closed my eyes for a minute. It was the thought of her symmetrical, pretty face that finally inspired me to pull myself with difficulty up, over, and out. I'm just going to shut my door because that sound is distracting me. You guys probably don't even hear it, but I do. I started giving Miranda banjo lessons once a week when she was 7. In the entire first few months, she had spoken less than 10 words. The word she had used most often was yes, with a somewhat elongated S sound. She wasn't unfriendly or shy, she just didn't talk much in the first year or so. She hid the first time I came, and that turned into a weekly ritual that lasted well into her teenage years. Sometimes in the closet, sometimes behind a chair, and at least once under the couch. There didn't seem to be enough room, but somehow she squeezed under there. I played along and always acted surprised when she popped out. One time her dad was home during the lesson and was annoyed with her that she was hiding. He said, "Miranda, come out of there right now." But I never minded. She was a good student. She practiced fairly regularly and made progress. I started her out with simple chords and right-hand strumming and then moved on to Scruggs-style fingerpicking. When she turned 13, she suffered for a relatively short time with a case of extreme adolescence. I hadn't seen her over the summer, and when we reconvened in September, her mom, Denise, met me at the door. She threw me a look and said, "Miranda's ready for you. She's waiting in the kitchen." A note in her voice that I couldn't recall ever hearing was enough to give me a few seconds of warning. As I entered the kitchen with no idea as to why we were doing the lesson there, I put on my game face and was subsequently able to sit down at the table without registering any reaction. I said hello to the new goth version of Miranda, dressed completely in black, with black lipstick and eyeliner, white makeup, her beautiful blonde hair dyed jet black. She did not respond to my greeting that day, and in fact did not say much of anything throughout the entire lesson. I wanted to say something encouraging like "awesome" or "you look great," but I wisely kept my mouth shut. I rightly assumed that at least part of the reason for this new phase was the constant, depressing phoniness of adults. And by virtue of this tiny gesture of empathy, the lesson was ultimately a success. By the next week, we were back to talking, and by the week after that, we were back to joking. In fact, after she relaxed a bit, she started learning more on the banjo than ever. A few months later, I was touched by something Denise did, and I've never forgotten it. One night after she had shown me in, we were back to studying in the living room. She left us to go upstairs. Miranda and I picked up where we had left off in some previous conversation, and something made me look up and over her shoulder after a minute or two. Her mom had gone around the corner of the 2-flight staircase, but stopped and poked her head around to watch us in a kind of wonder, as in, "How's he doing this when I can't?" I caught her eye and winked, and she quickly retreated, embarrassed. I spent a little extra time saying goodbye that evening, and after Miranda had left us, I touched Denise's arm and said, "She's really one of my best students, you know." She answered quickly and with a kind of loving frustration, "You're the only one who can get through to her these days." I've had so many students and have done so many lessons over the years that I usually have the goodbye moment down cold, but I was at a loss for words on hearing this and stammered something cliched like, "This too shall pass." And it did pass. By the next summer, the old Miranda was back as spirited as ever, and Denise and I were closer. I felt as if she treated me like a part of the family from that time on. In the following months, Miranda went beyond impressing her family and friends to playing well enough to get the attention of strangers and fellow high school students. She played her school's talent show when she was a junior, and although I told her I wasn't sure I could make it, I ended up standing in the back and recording her song into my phone, feeling as proud as any blood relative. She played well, But more importantly, I noticed she was as comfortable on stage as she was in her own living room. Afterward, when I went up to say hello and tell her how proud I was of her, she was very happy to see I'd made it and gave me a big hug. Now I was standing at her front door, waiting for her to let me in for the last lesson I would likely ever give her. She was about to leave for a semester abroad as she pursued a degree in theater at an Ivy League university. Significant things had changed for me in regard to my health. I was now one of the legions of older and younger citizens afflicted with cancer. The only person who knew of my recent diagnosis was my wife, and I plan to keep it that way. We don't have any kids, and I can't see the point in endlessly explaining to others that I probably won't be here in 6 months. Who really cares anyway? People are caught up in their own lives, as well they should be, and I don't want to be a bother or even a distraction. I've gotten plenty out of my 70-plus years on the planet, and at this point, I can still get around okay. But as I stood in the late winter cold, I realized that, all things considered, it was very possibly the last time I would ever see Miranda. I heard her say, "Coming," after I rang the bell, and I took a deep breath. She wasn't going to hide this time. She was the only one home. She greeted me warmly and even joyfully, saying, "Mr. Mark." This was a compromise designation. She had called me Mr. Stevenson for many years, that when she got older and I invited her to call me by my first name, it was a little awkward for both of us. She tried but gave up quickly, saying she didn't feel comfortable doing that. I wasn't disappointed that she hung back from being more familiar. I was touched that she would show me that kind of respect, as small as it might seem to some. In the front hall of her family's home, I couldn't help but think that she was as distinctly beautiful as she had always been. She looked like someone at 9 a.m. on their first day of a new job. For my part, at 5 in the evening, I felt like it was 5 minutes to midnight. She led me into the cozy living room and took my coat. There was a picture-perfect fire in the old-fashioned fireplace. "I'm glad we could get a lesson in before you leave," I said. "Are you going to bring your banjo to school?" "I've been thinking about it, but it's really hard to carry it on the plane." "I know, but you should definitely bring it. It'll make you a lot of friends." "Or enemies." "I'm joking. I think one of the other people might have one where I'm staying. I'll look into it." "Good. And don't forget to brush up on your banjo jokes." I had taught her the time-honored ways of the classic banjo joke. There were tons of them, and she could deliver some of the funniest with the air of an old pro. "What's the least spoken phrase in the English language?" I asked. "Where are the keys to the banjo player's Porsche?" she replied with the timing and inflection of an itinerant vaudevillian. "Remember when you used to hide every time I came? The best time was when you hid under the couch. You were around 10. I never thought you'd fit. I almost didn't. I needed help getting out. Once I told you I would turn you over my knee if you did it again. Do you remember what you said?" She was laughing. "No." "You said you'd call the cops on me if I did." Now we were both laughing. "Last year when I saw you in the talent show, I realized that you're going to be a success at whatever you set your mind to do. Your parents deserve credit, too, for buying you that great banjo. That's a serious instrument. Miranda's mom and dad had invested in a Gibson 5-string a few years ago, which played and sounded like the top quality classic it was, although I secretly thought they had paid too much. Neither one of us had yet made a move to open our instrument cases. "Would you like something to drink?" she asked. "Maybe just a glass of water." As she went to the kitchen, I thought about getting both our banjos out and tuning them up, but I was settled into the family's big easy chair in front of the fire and decided to stay put. She handed me the water, and after I thanked her, she asked, "How's Earl Scruggs doing these days?" "He's great," I replied. "He misses you." My wife and I had asked Miranda to house sit and take care of our mixed breed rescue dog for a week during the summer a while back. "Tell him I miss him too." We continued our reminiscing, talking about mutual friends, her plans, and my advice for her coming trip. The sun went down behind the gray, leafless trees in her yard that were always reaching for something in the bright sky. I suddenly realized we were at the 55-minute mark of an hour lesson. Oh no, we never even got our banjos out. Oh, I don't mind. I'm glad we had time to catch up a little. She was holding out the check her parents had left for me. I said, no, I didn't do anything but have fun. We wrangled about it happily for a minute. Then she said, okay, and went to get my coat. I found the check later in one of my coat pockets. She helped me put it on, an unusual courtesy for a teenage girl, and as she walked me to the door, she said with feeling, thank you so much for everything. We hugged, and I said a little weakly, have a great time at school. We said our goodbyes, but something wasn't right. I paused with my hand on the doorknob, and then sensing her confusion as to why I was hesitating, turned it and let myself out into what was now the dark and cold night. It's going to be a life-changing experience, I offered over my shoulder. I'll send you pictures, she answered. She closed the door and turned on the porch light so I'd have an easier time getting back to my car. When I reached the end of the walkway where the light fell short of the garage, I stopped again. I wrestled with a moment of nervous indecision, but blessedly, self-consciousness had receded enough at my age to enable me to set my banjo down, turn around, and return to her door. At my age and in my situation, I wasn't about to leave anything unspoken. Maybe 10 years earlier I might have. Regrets were never much of an issue in those days. She opened the door, glad to see me all over again, and asked, did you forget something? Yes, I said, life's too short for me to leave without telling you this. I paused. She stood listening like a deer in the woods who's frozen by an unfamiliar sound. You're like the daughter I never had. You are the daughter I never had, and I've loved you since the first day I met you. She looked down and said softly, I love you too, and I'm so thankful that you're a part of my life. We held each other tight for a long moment, and I kissed her on the cheek blindly. I made my way down the steps, got in my car, and I could hear those parting words like a beautiful song you can't get out of your head all the way home. The name of the book is There Must Be a Better World Somewhere. It's on Amazon. That was the banjo lesson, it was called, and it's my pleasure to read it for you. I don't aspire to literary greatness, nor do I aspire to necessarily write hit songs that set the world on fire. I do aspire to writing honest, truthful accounts of my experiences, and that's what this new album is going to be about. That's what my stories are about. And like I said, I do explore some genres that are fantasy genres, including a fairy tale I wrote, The Girl on the High Wire. And so that's in the book. But there is a story called My Crossroads. Maybe I'll read that some week. It's short. And that story is almost just 100% true. That I just changed the names in it. That's a story about an incident that happened in my life when I was hanging out in a local club called O'Connor's back in Watchung. I think I probably even changed the name of the club. I'm sure I did. But that song is called My Crossroads. That story. This is a song of mine that's on one of my albums, And I think that album is called Islands. And this song is called Art. Norman Rockwell, Norman Mailer, James Joyce, and James Taylor, they've had one thing in common from the start. Art. Art, yeah. Michelangelo and Mickey Mouse, Paul McCartney's still in the house. He's got a way of getting to your heart. Art. Art, yeah. Man does not live by video games alone. And the pen, the paintbrush, and the guitar pick are still mightier than the cell phone, baby. William Shakespeare, the Wizard of Oz, Louis Armstrong, it's cool because they're all in one big cosmic shopping cart. Art. Art, yeah. A-R-T spells art. A-R-T spells art, yes it does. That song is called Art, and the recording of it on the record I released called Islands is a live recording, which he says as he adjusts his Barnegat Light fire department hat. Yeah, I just did it, sang it like 6 times one night and recorded it. There's no overdubs on it. It's just the way you heard it, except it's in a higher key. I'm in the mood to perhaps do another original, one that's not been recorded yet and one that will probably be on the new record. And raging diabetic that I am with high blood sugar, I hope you'll excuse me. I have never done this before, but I have to take a bathroom break. I'll be right back. Okay, I can't wait until some of the YouTube gang is scrolling by and they see like 2 minutes of completely dead airspace with an empty chair. maybe it'll catch on and go viral. Look, it's some kind of performance art that this guy is doing, where he's just broadcasting, webcasting a chair. Have you seen the outtake from The Office, where Michael, the head of the office, is lecturing them all in the big conference room, and one of the employees says, "Why do you always assume I have diabetes?" And he goes, "You have a glass of apple juice and tell me that you don't have diabetes. You'll need a nap after a glass of apple juice." Okay, here's the guitar that led me back to the world of electric guitar, where I now play a Les Paul, and I'm actually even getting my own Honcho sword, if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm getting a Telecaster kind of built, and it's overdue, so I can't wait to show it to you. It's going to have a humbucker in the neck position, like the Police Andy Summers classic Telecaster. Hiram Bullock was another person. Jack Moorer of New York City was another person with an old Tele with a rockin' Gibson humbucker. David Spinoza, my mentor, has a 50s Telecaster with a Gibson humbucker in the neck position. Well, I decided to embrace that mode. This song is about the great Bessie Smith, and it's called Bessie's Blues. I might play Let me tell you a story about an old and soulful friend of mine, yeah. Bessie Smith was a singer who was so majestic, so much more than fine, yeah. She was earthy as a diamond, yeah, but her voice was like the sound of the divine. She could play the low-down blues with the power of a hurricane. You could hear the thunder, you could feel the driving wind and pouring rain. From the feet that held her ground to the eyes that held the deepest look of pain. She sang, "Give me a pig foot and downhearted blues, and I ain't got nobody, and 'tain't nobody's business if I do." Who could say what she signified? There's no man-made invention that could step up what the Lord electrified. No. Bessie died in Mississippi from a car crash in the middle of the night. Lost her arm in Mississippi, turned away from help because she wasn't white. No. Lord, I wonder if your angels carried Bessie Smith into your perfect light. Let me tell you a story. That's called Bessie's Blues. It's not yet available anywhere because I haven't recorded it. I've done a couple of demos of it over time, and I even gave one to my friend John Weingart, the DJ, and he played it on the radio. So he's played it on the radio, and yet it is not available. Well, I've been working on 4 songs, and I was cramming for an exam. One of them's called Can't Win for Losing You, and I don't want to play it. I'm just not confident enough. I didn't get them done in time to actually practice them. So I promise I will get them ready, and by the next show, I will have 4 new songs to play you. One of them is called True Blue Memory, and I could play you just a taste of that, maybe, just to give you a heads up on the... It's like a 1-6-4-5. Your true blue memory, yeah. I love how you make me feel. You're so much better than real, and I love how you're there for me. You're my fairy tale princess. I carry you in my phone, though in my real life I'm alone, yeah. But I remember all the good times, yeah. Okay, then the bridge goes wild, kind of Beach Boys like, in a sense. Todd Rundgren-ish, where me and my friends were listening to the Nazz, Open My Eyes. Steve Philp and Alan LaBeouf were talking about that great pop record. Hardly anybody remembers the Nazz, but we do, and I recommend them. And the song is called Open My Eyes. It's got a really, really creative, adventuresome bridge, and I didn't try to copy the bridge, but it just so happened that my bridge to that new song that I just played you the first 2 verses of has one of those style bridges. Now, I've got so many songs at this point. I play new ones for you all the time. Sometimes I dig out some of the old ones. And then there's a middle period that kind of gets neglected in my writing by me, I mean, but also by listeners. But Livingston Taylor loves this song and he encouraged me on it. And again, it's pretty true. And I wrote it for all of you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for contributing. I'll put the PayPal connection under the video, and I call it my virtual tip jar. And it means a lot to me when you contribute towards it, whatever amount. It helps keep the show going. Also, liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel helps. So have a great night, and God bless you. I'm glad we could meet up tonight. This is called I'll Remember You. As the shadows fall and the moon is high and the stars come into view, I'll sit on my porch and I'll fold my hands and I'll remember you. You were there for me in a special way, more than anyone I knew. And when the sun comes up and warms the day, I'll remember you. Like a beautiful song I heard when I was alone and blue. When the day is done and my sight grows dim and the colors fade from view, when I can't recall even my own name, I'll remember you. I'll remember you. Thank you.